Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing very well. Today is the first in a series of videos about the NS-430 GPS navigation system that you can buy for navigation in DCS world, especially useful for aircraft that do not have INS/GPS navigation. This first video will be a general guide and we will cover 1. The controls on the system, 2. The screens of interest of the system at this level of usage, which is a fairly low level of usage. 3. Flight plan creation. That's a series of waypoints linked together essentially. Within that, we'll show 2 methods of waypoint creation and associated vertical speed requirement on at least one of those waypoints. And then 4, we will show flying the waypoint chain or flying the flight plan. First of all, from main menu, options, special options, find the NS-430, which is there. You can see that we can use the 430 on all of these aircraft, and there are separate versions that you can buy that will allow a 3D model of the NS-430 that's usable in the following aircraft. Okay, I'm just going to leave all of mine on because it's quite a cool unit, and you don't have to have it shown, you can have it hidden if you want. Let's go and use our example. We'll be using an F5 because it's a good aircraft, but it does not have INS or GPS navigation. We are this F5 at Batumi. We are going to fly to a waypoint that we're going to create out to sea, and then another waypoint that we're going to fly, which is out to sea, and then we're going to create a third waypoint, which is going to be at Cobuletti, and that's as far as we're going to go. We're not going to be doing approach in this video because that's more advanced. We're just going to fly a chain of waypoints and get to the end, and that will do for today. Now, an easy way that we could create these waypoints is click in the mission editor, click on our guy here, add the waypoints like that, like that, like that through the normal mission editor way, but that's cheating. And you know what we want to see is the actual waypoint creation from within the aircraft itself on the unit. But just so you know, that is possible. That would essentially do all the work, and you could just go and fly the waypoints. First things first, how do we get the panel up? Go to adjust controls, go to the NS-430. Several things that you can bind here, and all we want at the moment is how to turn it on. Left shift, left alt and bravo, left shift, left alt and bravo. There it is. We can move it about like that, and we can stretch it wherever we want. Nice and big just for this tutorial. This is the 2D method. If you use the 3D method, then it will be, pinned on your dashboard in 3D, and you'll have to actually physically zoom your view in. We've also had complaints that the 2D method does not work in VR. I can't substantiate that, but just bear that in mind, please. This is our basic unpowered screen. If we want to power it, we're going to turn this knob here with our mouse scroll clockwise, which is our volume and our power on. It's going to load. We're going to press enter. We can actually do stuff here, but it's not in the scope of today's video. We'll just press enter again, and we're loaded into our main page, what we call our nav map page, and we're ready to go. So let's look at the unit controls. All of this are bindable to your keyboard and your hostess if you want, but I just push them. So first of all, as we saw here, mouse scroll wheel to go clockwise and turn it on, and this will also change the volume of the comm channel. So we can have that fully up here. Comms, communication, like radio. Alternative to comms, we have something called VLOC. That is essentially our radio navigation, and we have the same thing here of the volume for it. Associated with that, we have our comm here and our VLOC here. Our main frequency for comm here, communications, our secondary frequency for communications here, primary here for VLOC, secondary here for VLOC. If we want to switch between the secondary and the primary, as we'll probably show later on why we would actually do that, you press that so you can alternate them. So the secondary is now the primary that we'll actually use, and the same with VLOC. To edit these figures here, we can first of all switch between what we're going to edit, comm or VLOC, by pressing push CB here. And regarding the particular frequency you've got selected, in this case comm backup or comm secondary, we can use this left pyramid knob, and it's actually known as big left knob and small left knob here. And you can use mouse scroll wheel to change the megahertz there and the kilohertz there. So that is the left bank of controls. On to the right bank, range. In this particular map view is an excellent idea of showing the range. We can see the range there of 90 nautical miles, or scale I think is probably a better word, and we can obviously zoom in and zoom out with the range. Next, menu. There will be several pages that we will look at on our NS-430, and if we want to change certain parameters within that page, as we'll look at, we'll press menu to do that. Enter is literally going to be enter, like you would have on a keyboard. It will accept a certain change or accept the creation of a waypoint and so on. Clear is going to clear a field, or it can be used to go back to our default page, which is going to, well, I'll show you now. It'll go back to default nav, so press and hold for 2 seconds. And it's going to go back to this called our default nav page, or a nav def page, which will make sense a bit later. This button here, direct to, is not going to be using it today. It's not really part of a flight plan, but if you wanted to, for instance, ignore your flight plan and just immediately direct to a certain point in space, an airfield or whatever, you would use your direct to button. Next, bottom right, we have another pyramid knob known as large right knob, small right knob, and a push here. So these are going to be your primary method of interaction with one of your pages. So for instance, this page here has got lots of different values that are not populated at the moment, but they will be. If we wanted to interact with them, for instance, select which field we were interested in, we could use our large knob here and use the mouse scroll wheel again. If we wanted to change the figures in a particular data field, like that 0 there, we would move to it with the big knob and then use the smaller knob to actually change the field. And with regards to that, you could also push this button here, like you've got a push button there. That is what's going to change generally a page from a viewable page like this, where you just view, to an editable page. So if I wanted to edit something here, I would first push that, and if I wanted to stop editing it, I would push that again. Next, down to the bottom, CDI. I'm not sure what it actually stands for. It's going to change our source of navigation. Currently on GPS, and we'll look further into that. If we wanted to navigate source via our radio navigation, our VOR, which will be related to this frequency here, we can do that. Next, OBS. This is something that is going to allow us to temporarily override a flight plan that's not in today's scope, so we'll not look at it today. Messages, very simple. If a message has come up from the 430 to tell us something, that will show there. We'll press the message. We'll be doing this a lot today. Device is ready in this case. In that case, I'm just going to clear that message. Flight plan is essentially a chain of waypoints that will fly from one to the other. We'll obviously be looking at today. And finally, PROC, procedures for departures and arrivals and approaches, not in today's scope. We'll go over that in another video. Next, I'll show you the various pages that we can use that are relevant to today's video. If we're ever in a screen and we don't know where we are and we want to get back to our basic nav def page, which is our home page, press and hold clear. Next, I'll superimpose on the screen a full list of all the pages that we have. The pages are split into 4 page groups: nav, waypoint, auxiliary, and nearest. Today we'll be looking at all of the nav pages and one of the waypoint pages. To know which page group you are in, look at the bottom there, you can see nav, and you can see that we're looking at page 1 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the possible nav pages. If we want to skip to the next nav group, we're going to clockwise 1 on big right knob, waypoint group, auxiliary, nearest. Let's go back to nav. Nav, page 1, this is nav def. This is what you'd probably call your primary page for what you're actually going to be seeing when you're up in the air navigating. First symbology here is the track or course deviation. This tells us how far we are left or right of the desired track, which we'll look at in a bit, up to a dynamic scale, in this case shown as 2 miles left, 2 miles right. The bar, this guy here, is our desired position, and the green arrow is our actual. Next is our current leg. We'll be flying always from a waypoint to a waypoint in our flight plan. From this guy here to this guy here, because we have no flight plan, they're currently empty. Next, various flight parameters. Current distance to selected waypoint, obviously blank at the moment. Desired track to current selected waypoint in degrees magnetic. Bearing, that is an actual as the crow flies bearing from our ship to the waypoint. Obviously that's going to be different to track. Next, ground speed in knots. Next, our current actual track, so where the direction that our plane is actually flying, not heading but flying. And finally, our en route time. Note at this point, like most of the other screens out there, this is completely configurable. If I wanted to change one of these things, then I would go to menu. I could change or restore, so in this case I'm going to change. I'm happy with that. What I could do is use the large right knob here to change options here, but I'm going to change fields, enter to accept that. Which one am I going to change? And I'm going to do this for real because this is something we're going to be using. I want to change en route time. It's just not something I particularly want. So I'm going to use this big red right knob to scroll to en route time. Now to actually change that field, and this is going to work the same through this whole tutorial, I'll go to small right knob and turn that. And you can see I've got a whole bunch of stuff I can change. In this case, I'm going to change it to vertical speed because it will be of use for later on. And I'm going to go to enter to accept that. So we now have vertical speed required there in feet per minute. Note we are currently in edit mode. You can see because you've got a little flashing guy there. I don't want to be in edit mode, I want to be in view mode, so push this guy here. We're now in view mode. Okay, we're back to our standard nav def page and we've changed the thing. Let's go to our next nav page, nav map. To change pages, not big right knob but small right knob, hover over it and turn 1. Nav map. Very simple but very useful. First of all, we can zoom in and we can zoom out. We are the little aeroplane there. We're at Batumi, obviously. Now, let's say I want to inquire about something. And then I can go to push cursor here. We've now got a cursor. The cursor is going to show where my cursor... In fact, let me just move it out of the way. I can use big right knob to go horizontal, small right knob to go vertical. Where I've got my cursor there, in relation to me there, is a bearing of 104, in fact, sorry, that's the other way around. From me to the cursor is 104 magnetic for 36 nautical miles. And note that the area that I'm near actually has an associated waypoint with the name of MAT, and we'll come back to that in a bit. And it has a lat long shown here. In this black area and in the sea, there are several set waypoints and points of interest. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't see on this display because it's, you know, it's an old small display. But let's go to an obvious one, shall we? Let's go to this guy here, UGSS. All airports have a 4-digit international code. I forget exactly how it works. U is like the area, G is like the sub-area, and so on. And S is like the, the fourth letter is like the name of the airport, S for Sukumi, B for Batumi, and so on, okay? If you ever want to know, by the way, what the international code is, go here, click on the guy, ICAO UG5X for that guy there. Next, I want to put my cursor on that UG5SS. You can see it comes up there. Just be a little bit careful, because like I said, there's lots of little ones about you can't see, and so you just have to be a little careful about what you've got selected. So I've got UGSS selected. It's land distance and bearing from me to it. It's that northern easting. If I wanted to get some information from it, which I might, I'm going to go ping enter, and I can get some information from it. We know the waypoint or the point of interest I've selected is UGSS because you can see it there. That's as far as I want to go for that. I'm going to clear out that because I've decided I don't want to be in there.
If you can't see a waypoint and the name is coming up, it's due to the level of zoom you've got on the map display. So when you're far zoomed out, you might only see, say, TACANs and airfields. As you zoom further in, you'll see a greater level of waypoints.
Thank you, Gary. Gary is our resident expert on this. Right, I didn't realise that. So we've got SARPI, whatever that is. You know, it's a thing that someone's put into this nav database, and we can go there and navigate to SARPI.
Yeah, that'll be an intersection used in commercial jetways or airways.
How about that? Very good. Okay, right. So that is showing some basic functionality of nav map page, and one of the methods of waypoint creation will be cursor freehand, and we'll come back to that in a bit. If you haven't discovered by now, yes, this video will take quite a long time, so please sit down and get your coffee. We've got no real way of hurrying it up. So, I'm going to go back to read mode. Ping. View mode, sorry. I'm going to go to my next page. Small right knob. This is terrain mode, and this is going to be something I best show in the air, and it has a database populated of all the altitudes of the various parts of the ground, and based on my altitude at the moment, which it's detecting from GPS satellite as 4,300 feet above mean sea level. It's saying that bit of land ahead in the red is dangerously high. The yellow or the orange is a warning in terms of altitude, and it's dynamic. So watch this. If I speed up time, put my afterburner on, because I'm not in a Cessna, I'm in a big, fast fighter jet. Ta-da! It all goes away, because at no point at 8,000 feet is any of that a warning. So that's the nav terrain page. Next, nav departure screen. This would be dynamically updated based on your current position. For instance, I'm on the apron at Batumi, and it's going to find me useful comm frequencies of interest. So it's telling me here I'm at UGBS B Batumi. I'm not sure what public means, but there you go. It's telling me that there is a local tower frequency of interest here at 131 megahertz. If I wanted to use that, I could either type it in manually, like we saw before, or we could go to editable page mode by pushing cursor. Big knob down. Get to tower.
Cap.
Yep.
So public means it's a public airfield. You could also have airbase or a private airfield, say on somebody's property.
Thank you very much. I've gone to this tower frequency here. I'm going to press enter. Ping, and you can see now my backup comm frequency is 131, and we can actually use that by doing a swap. Okay. We're now going to go back to view only mode by pushing the cursor. Next screen. This page is called Nav Pos. This is just our current position, in case we needed to know that. This guy up here is not actually a heading per se. This is our current track, which is currently invalid because you only really have a track when you're moving. We have our minimum safe altitude of this current region of 0 feet. The NS-430 has a big database to tell you how low you can safely fly in certain areas. This here is our current track again, degrees magnetic again. Here is our current GPS derived altitude above mean sea level in feet. Here is our current lat long in 2-digit decibel minutes. Here is our current local time. These three fields here show us our relative bearing and distance from a selected waypoint, which is not relevant at the moment because we don't have any waypoints, but that would be of use during our flight plan if we can remember to go and have a look at that. Next page, we have our nav GPS page. This is an interesting little thing. It shows us our various satellites which are modelled in DCS. If you were in a position where you couldn't see any satellites, you would actually lose your GPS, and GPS side of the system would stop working. And that's the same in all GPS aircraft and DCS, by the way. Very, very quickly, what we've got here is all the satellites that are in the simulated world at the moment. This outer line here is representing the horizon, so this guy's right out on the horizon. This is our 45-degree line, so roughly 45 degrees in a ring. Obviously you've got north, south, west and east, and straight above us, like number 9 straight above us, that's literally at top of us at the moment. Each of those satellites is numbered down here and has a strength from 0 to 32, 32 being at the top, 0 being at the bottom. Obviously the better signal strength, the more accurate that satellite is. When we have all this information, then we have a certain error based on those various strengths and positions. Here is our horizontal error. FOM is figure of merit. Our horizontal error is currently 6 meters and our vertical error is 7 meters. So that's talking about how accurate our system is. It shows acquiring, but that is normal. It will always be acquiring even if it's in a fully working status. And we need at least 5 satellites to work correctly in DCS.
It should also be noted, Cap, if you set the dates in the mission editor, you will not have GPS available. Right,
so if we're in a mission editor and we fly a mission before 1986, there will be no satellites and this will not work. Final page of nav, vertical navigation. Let's say, in fact, we'll actually set this up. Let's say one of our waypoints, waypoint 1, we want to make sure we achieve en route to that waypoint a certain altitude. We can program this to give us guidance to get to that altitude correctly. Let's say one of our waypoints is going over a mountain. Well, we want to make sure we clear that mountain correctly, and we want guidance to that in case maybe we've got bad visual conditions. So, target altitude here in feet, above or below the selected waypoint. We want to achieve that altitude this many miles before the selected waypoint. This is our vertical speed profile. Currently 400 feet per minute. We can change that. And our vertical speed required, again, in feet per minute. That is all of the nav pages. There are lots of waypoint pages, most of which are not relevant to today, except the last one. I'm on the last one here. When we're creating or editing a waypoint, this will be the up to 5-digit reference for the waypoint, the name. These guys here are interesting. They are the relationship between a nearby nav point, and that's going to be dynamic. It's going to depend where we create our point, and I'll explain that a bit closer. And here will be our position, which is literally going to be our lat long minutes 2-digit decimal. That shows the screens we're interested in today. Now let's actually go and create our flight plan. So if in doubt, press and hold clear. Nav def page. Let's go one page further to the nav plan. Let's push our cursor on, and let's push our cursor up. Let's zoom out. Okay, let's make it easy. We're at Batumi. That is Kobiletti. I could prove it by putting the cursor over it and getting the 4-digit code, but we're not. In this case, I want waypoint 1 there. It's just an arbitrary point. It's not got any current point you can see detected, so it's literally just going to be a lat long. I can tell you it's that bearing from me and that many miles out. There's the lat long. I'm going to create the waypoint by pressing enter. Now at this point it gives me the ability to change anything before I create it. Do I want to change the name? Do I want to... This here is a good example. It's telling me my navigation information is that, in this case, reference waypoint is going to be KT. That is actually a VOR next to the Kutaisi military, I think, airbase. The radial from this thing I'm creating here to that VOR is 235 degrees magnetic, and the distance between the thing I'm creating here and that VOR is 50.2 nautical miles. And we've got a secondary guy here, I think TB, I'm guessing Tbilisi at that radial there, but I don't actually know. If I wanted to change the name at this point, I could use big scroll wheel, so we use our usual method of changing things there. And then I would use small scroll wheel to go in and actually change the digits scrolling, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to do it in this case, and just one word of warning. I would suggest only doing that when necessary, and make sure, if you're going to do it, that you have create a 4-digit, certainly not a single digit. We found that if you create just a single digit name, like 1 or A or B or whatever, it doesn't actually work. So just bear that in mind. If possible, I would suggest just leaving it as it is, which is what I'm going to do here. And we've just learned that by trial and error. Right, so I'm back here. Do I want to create this waypoint? Yes, I do. Enter. Ping. Okay, it's asking me if I want to modify it now, and I don't. What I'm going to do now is go back to my my nav page and select my next waypoint. So clear. And I'm going to push the cursor. I'm going to go and put another guy up here, look. It's going to be, I don't know, whatever, there. 18 miles away. Just if I can get it right. It takes a while to get used to these knobs. Enter. I could change it, but I'm not going to. Do I want to create it? Yes. Enter there. Lovely. We've now created our 2 waypoints of interest. The other waypoint at the Kobiledi, we're going to create by a different method. So I'm confused. I don't know where to go. So push and hold clear to get back to nav def page. Okay. Next, we're going to create our flight plan. So flight plan. It's already populated the first element, which is Batumi, obviously, because that's where I am. Next, I want to add my waypoint 1, so I'm going to push him to turn it into an editable page. I'm going to go down with this guy here, and I'm going to select via this small knob here. So you're getting the idea now. You're getting the idea now what these knobs are used for, and once you get used to the system, then it all starts to make sense. So turn knob. I want to select something, the first syntax character that will lead me to my waypoint 1, which is called 0001. So let's go to 00. If I can find it. There it is, and it's already filled. It said, okay, I've only got 1 point or 2 points of that I can fill out. It's that one there. Do you want that? Yes, I do. Well, I've actually found 2 waypoints, 1 and 2, both user created. Which one do you want? I want that one there. Enter. Enter to accept. Right, so that's my next waypoint. It's automatically put me down here for my next one, and I want to add it in. So small right knob. 0 again, if you remember, because it's user created. Enter. Which one do you want? I want that one this time. Big knob. Enter. Enter. And finally, the Kobiledi. So for this one, we're going to do it a different way. we are going to use small right knob, sorry. We're going to type in Cobuletti. There's no shortcut as far as I'm aware. You just got to do it. In fact, we're not going to type Cobuletti. We're going to type in the 4-digit international code, which I've forgotten. So let's go and find out.
UG5X.
UG5X. I wonder why they called it X. That's weird, isn't it? Right. So just got to be patient now and get this done. This is where you really need a UFC. Big scroll wheel to accept. Sorry, I've forgotten already. UB.
G, golf.
Golf.
If you press enter once you've got golf in, it should, as with your user waypoints, give you a list of ones that have...
No, it's not interested, so I'm going to keep going.
Copy.
Maybe there's just too many UGs out there.
Could well be. Cap, when you're scrolling, you can go down from A, yeah.
Roger. Hang on, I'm lost. What am I doing? X. Oh, I'm alright.
Correct.
I've got my method. There it is. It's picked it up. Enter. And there you go. There it is. U5GX. That's that. So let's just do a sanity check. I'm going to scroll up here with big wheel. Okay, starting up to me. Check. This guy here is showing that this is our en route, and we're en route here to that next waypoint. So we're moving between him and him. So it's going to waypoint user defined 1, which is a magnetic of that and a distance of that. Then from that to that will be magnetic 022, 10, and then from that to that will be magnetic 082 for 12.6. Everything sounds pretty good there. That's our flight plan created. Now we just want to change one interaction, which is to add some vertical speed. So I'm still in edit mode, so be very, very careful. I'm in edit mode. You can see that flashing. I'm going to push cursor. Right, done. It's saved now. It's done. Now I can clear back for 2 seconds. Hold back to our nav-def page, and there it is. You can see it's starting to populate with information now. It's now saying we're going from there to there. We're slightly off track. We're to the left of track. That distance, that track, we'll go over that in a second. Next, I want to scroll. Whoops, wrong button. I want to scroll to vertical speed navigation, or vertical information. Vertical navigation, I should say. So, I'm going to edit that. I want to be at a target altitude of 3,000 feet above the waypoint. The waypoint is basically at sea level. To finish editing this field, enter here to our next one. Don't want to change that to our next one. I want to achieve this 2 miles before the waypoint because they're quite close to each other. Enter. Before. Not that. I want to choose that one there, please. Big wheel. Alright. Vertical speed I want to gun for is going to be, just picking things out of air here. I don't know what it's going to be. Say 800, enter. Giving us our vertical speed required of 800 feet per minute. I'm happy with everything there. I'm going to push here to turn it into a read-only page. It's in, it's saved, it's done. Now let's get right back to the beginning here. That's the beginning. Out of interest, this system I would fly either with nav-def, or I might want to fly it with this guy here, this nav map, which is going to allow me to kind of look ahead and look at the chain of waypoints. The purple one's what I'm on, the white ones are to come up. You can see the name of the waypoint, UGSB 001 and UG5X, but for me, the most interesting one by far is going to be this one here, nav-def. Now, technically, I could still use my instrumentation from the F5 independent of the NS-430, and in some cases I will. Maybe I'll use my VSI, but generally speaking, I'm just going to use the NS-430 for this, and I'll make it nice and big so you guys can see it. So, let us take control of the vehicle. You can start to see my GPS information populated. Airborne, gear up. You can see that currently I am left of track. I want to pull right in this case to centralize the vertical guy on the center of this arrow here. I'm heading from UGSB to waypoint user defined 1. The distance to get there is going to be 11.2 nautical miles. The desired track will be 322 degrees magnetic. The actual, as the crow flies, bearing from me to waypoint, user waypoint 1 is 323 degrees magnetic. My current ground speed, which is very important for navigation, obviously, is 204 knots, which will not be the same as our air speed, which I'm seeing there, although it's fairly similar at the moment. My actual track at the moment, not my actual heading. My heading is going to be shown by my compass. Here, my track is 298, and my current vertical speed required is 2,624 feet per minute positive. I've got to climb at 2,624 feet per minute to get to my 3,000 feet, as I requested, and that is that. So let's unpause. Now let's try and fly it. And this is the difficult bit. It's always all been easy until now. So I'm going to try and get track onto desired track. It's going to be a right turn, obviously. And I've got to get my VSI roughly at 2,624 feet per minute. For that, I can use my VSI down here. So I'm just positioning that now. I am on track, and I've got to turn left. VSI's gone slightly wrong. Some guys are good at IFR, and I am definitely not one of them. 8 miles to user waypoint 1. On track. We're sort of kind of slaloming around the track, which is typical for a noob who's not very good at intercepting radials.
When you're that close to the waypoint cap, maybe smaller deviations from the course to intercept.
Absolutely, yep. So that'll be more kind of technique. I'm just going to pause now because look, oh, a message has come up. What could that message be? Let's go and have a look. It's telling me approaching target altitude. So, you see I'm 2,800 feet here. I asked it to be about 3,000 feet, didn't I? So, that's what it's there for. So I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to unpause. I'm going to level out now, so I've got to think about leveling it out. So VSI going down to level. I'm not too bad off track. So, like Gary said, nice small movements now of deviations from the track. Which is easier said than done. I'm at 3,000 feet. Trying to bring that track in, but not chase it. 3 miles to waypoint. Get that VSI down. Sort the trim out. Okay, I'm going to stop now. It's telling me to plan for the future. Now, an aircraft... well, let's go and have a look, actually. So, if I go to next page. An aircraft doesn't just turn a perfect corner. Like, you know, on this map. It needs to slowly turn. As a curve to add in there. So, it's going to tell me, in 4 seconds, right turn to 022 magnetic. And if we do that, it should do a nice intersecting curve without overshooting the next track. Well, in theory anyway. So let's follow his orders, trying to keep an eye on our VSI, which absolutely refuses to neutralise. There we go. Just my trim's a bit wrong. Okay, make the right turn. The 022, I think he said. It will automatically switch waypoints to 0002 when it decides the time is right. There. I mean, it's kind of semi-intelligent. It determined that I never actually made it to waypoint 1, but, you know, I'd kind of gone around it with my curve, and it said, okay, yep, he wants waypoint 2 now. He's put me on waypoint 2, and I've got my desired track there, and so on. So off we go again. So I've got to go... I'm right of track. So if I deviate, try and fly properly now. I'm at 3,000 feet as desired. Okay, now what I want to do is kind of turn into this guy a bit like that. And that should be, from my experience, pretty much on that track now. Slightly over altitude. Slightly underturned there. That's the way it is, though. It takes lots of practice. Okay, on altitude. And we are on... pretty much on track as well, if you look. What I'm doing is I'm constantly looking at these guys here and trying to keep them central. And visualising how I need to turn to do that. Altitude's gone high. Put that back, so the VSI back in order. 3 miles to go. Here we go. In 8 seconds, turn right turn to 082 degrees. And start the turn. A little high. Automatically switch to the next waypoint, as you can see. I'll start turning into that course deviation now. Hopefully that should be a relatively good merge. That feels pretty good. There, I've lost altitude, so I want to climb again. Like I said, we're not going into approaches and stuff on this. We just want to get to that waypoint, and that'll be us done. Okay, I'm pretty happy I'm on that track. We can just visualize it, but there it is. We're pretty good on that track. Look, let's ignore the VFR though. Let's just try and do it by the numbers. Slightly left of track. On track. The system is essentially going to account for any wind and whatnot because it's dealing with track rather than heading. You know, nowhere does this deal with heading, and that's because a GPS system isn't interested in heading. Or navigation system like this. Go slightly left, so let's turn right. I haven't been watching my altitude, I'm below 2.8 miles. Let's see how accurate we can get it, shall we? 2 miles. Slightly right now, slightly left now. No, we're right. No, we're left. No, we're right. 1.8 miles. 3 miles, and ping! We are, in theory, wait, you're not going to get much better than that. That's got me right over the centre point of the airfield as best we possibly can. So it's a proper pucker system, that is. That rounds up our introduction to the system, the various functions, the buttons, the pages of interest at this point. Next, we'll go into approaches, radials, and whatnot, which is the next part of the integration. I hope that was useful, and see you later.